Thanks for joining us. Let's begin straight away with our bullet point. Cameroon has joined the global community in commemorating the 5th International Day of Plant Health, with experts and officials calling for stronger measures to protect crops, ensure food safety, and preserve ecosystems. They stressed that healthy plants remain vital to food security and environmental sustainability under the One Health approach. Cameroon has joined the rest of the world in commemorating the International Nurses Day. The occasion highlights the vital role nurses play in the healthcare system, while reaffirming the need for better working conditions and stronger support for nursing professionals. These stories and more will be yours in a bit. Thanks once more for joining us. We begin the news where the celebration of the National Unity Day in Cameroon is a culmination of events that date back to the end of the First World War. They understand the beauty and uniqueness of Cameroon's history. In this light, Freddy Esomo and Promise Akante take us into the pages of the history with the assistance of a historian. Let's take a listen.
Cameroon's unique history was defined by its partition between France and Britain following the First World War, evolving from a German colony into the League of Nations mandates, then the UN trusteeships, leading to the independence of French Cameroon on January 1, 1960. Professor Joel Beyolo takes us to the very beginning.
To have a well understanding on what happened the 20th of May of 1972, we have to keep in mind that in 1916, Cameroon was divided into two parts. And then, with the mandate that was given to French and Britain, Cameroon was colonized because it's the word, or administrated by both states.
Following the end of the war and the establishment of the United Nations, the League of Nations mandates were converted into UN trusteeships, which brought pressure for the development of democratic institutions and preparation for self-government.
According to the Resolution 1352 of the 16th December 1959, which established the independence of trusteeship territory later than March 1961, French Cameroon obtained its independence 1st of January 1960. And then negotiation began between southern Cameroonians and authorities of the Republic of Cameroon to see how the independence of the southern Cameroons can be achieved.
Cameroon gained independence in two stages. French Cameroon became the independent Republic of Cameroon on January 1, 1960, followed by British Southern Cameroons voting to join them on October 1, 1961, forming a federal republic in a complicated procedure.
The General Assembly of UN gives three options to trusteeship territory to achieve the independence. The first option was to become an independent state. The second one was to achieve independence by joining an independent state. And the third option was to achieve independence by joining a group of states. In the case of the Britain Cameroon, the second option was chosen. Therefore, the option was to achieve independence by joining Cameroon, the Republic of Cameroon, or by joining the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
From the Federal Republic of Cameroon, the story has evolved with many changes in the name and form of the state.
Cameroon has marked the 5th edition of the International Day of Plant Health with a renewed call to safeguard crops, food safety and ecosystems. Officials and agricultural experts emphasized that plant health is the foundation of food security and a vital pillar of the One Health approach linking human, animal and environmental well-being. Melanimbo.
Officials and experts stress that plant health is directly linked to human, animal, environmental well-being as healthy plants provide nutrient-rich diet and support balanced ecosystems. The day's message shows that plants sustain life, providing 80% of the food we eat and 98% of the oxygen we breathe. Pests and diseases can also trigger outbreaks, while pesticide overuse leads to environmental pollution, biodiversity and resistance.
We are here to take stock as well on what the country has been doing in terms of creating the conditions to ensure that the agri-food system in Cameroon continue to produce sufficient food for everyone and for the region. Without a strong protection of plant health, we cannot have an agri-food system that can feed everyone.
So this year's observance called on citizens, farmers and policymakers to raise awareness and take concrete action to safeguard plant, animal, human and environmental health.
Today that we come together also to reflect on things that we can do better and to ensure that the plant protection and the plant continue healthy for the benefit of the people, but also for the development of the agri-food system in Cameroon. So the country has done a lot. The institutions are particularly strong, and together we can do better to ensure that the agri-food system in this country remain robust.
Authorities emphasize that protecting plants is essential to protecting lives and ensuring stable food ecosystem.
To all of us, sometimes is a simple practice that we do collectively that can spread certain diseases, that can spread certain insects. So prevention is important, but also creating the conditions and the strong institutions to ensure that farmers have the know-how, farmers know what they do once they are facing with a pest or once they're faced with a particular disease.
To support this goal, experts urge the public to adopt a protective attitude.
Calls on us all to recognize the urgent need to strengthen prevention, monitoring and control mechanisms against pests that threaten our agricultural production systems.
These measures aim to prevent pesticide residues, resistance and further ecosystems damage, reinforcing Cameroon's commitment to food safety and sustainable agriculture.
And as you heard in one of our lead stories, nurses are on the spotlight this May 12, 2026 as the world has come together to observe the International Nurses Day, an opportunity to celebrate nurses and for them to reaffirm their commitment to improving working conditions for nursing professionals. Sharon Arahtany.
The International Nurses Day is celebrated every May 12 to honor nurses for their dedication and service to humanity. The event also marks the birth anniversary of Florence Nightingale, one of the greatest figures in nursing history. This year's theme, chosen by the International Council of Nurses, is Our Nurses, Our Future, the Power of Nurses. The theme emphasizes the important role nurses play in healthcare and the impact they have on individuals, families, and communities around the world. Today is May 12, International Nurses Day. It's a day celebrated all over the world. This day marks the anniversary of Florence Nightingale, one of the greatest figures in nursing. This year's theme, chosen by International Council of Nurses, is Our Nurses, Our Future. Power of Nurses. It's a magnificent responsibility. During the celebrations, speeches were delivered to appreciate the hard work, compassion, and commitment of nurses. Participants highlighted that nurses are the backbone of the healthcare system because they provide care, comfort, and hope to patients every day. The occasion also serves as a reminder that nurses deserve recognition and support at all times. There is no life without nurses, reason why nurses need to be celebrated every day. The celebration ended successfully with words of encouragement and gratitude to all nurses for their magnificent responsibility and continuous sacrifice in saving lives.
The Douala Kribi N'Djamena and Douala Kribi Bangui are corridors of Central Africa's economic oxygen line. On May 11, 2026, Cameroon's Minister of Transport Jean-Ernest Masséna Ngalé-Bébéhé and his Chadian and Central African Republic counterparts convened the fifth tripartite Party Forum in N'Djamena, focus to kill the delays, cut the cost, and stop the harassment. Bertrand Tita has details in the following report.
The Douala Kribi N'Djamena and Douala Kribi Bangui corridors are more than asphalts and checkpoints. There are arteries. Over 80% of the Central African Republic's import and export breathe through Cameroon's port. For landlocked Chad, the same roads are the difference between stocked markets and empty shelves. Yet, for decades, these arteries have been clogged by a familiar disease, administrative harassment, long delays, and operational costs that turn trade into gamble. That is why N'Djamena matters this week. This is the fifth time shippers, councils, transport ministers, custom officials, freight forwarders, and trucker unions from the three countries have sat under the tripartite banner. The repetition itself is a commentary. Minister Ngalé-Bébéhé presents signals Cameroon's understanding of the stake. Cameroon is not just a participant, it is the gateway. The forum's purpose, as stated, is blunt. Evaluate measures to improve corridor efficiency. Translated, the means making hard questions. Why do trucks still spend days at Vigil or Garwa-Bulai? Why do facilitation fees remain a line item in every transporter's budget? Why does a document stamped in Kribi need to re-stamped 3 times before N'Djamena? The forum, therefore, is not a similar, it is a survivor meeting. The Cameroon National Shippers Council has spent years trying to treat the symptoms, building truckers' rest stop, deploying GPS trackers, negotiating single-window documentation. Progress has been real but uneven. The fiscal road from Kribi to Bangui exists. The paper road does not. Custom regimes are not harmonized. Exile road rules are interpreted differently at each way bridge. A certificate of origin accepted in Toporo is questioned in Mbozembeli. The Fit Forum cannot avoid that conversation. Logistics is not just cranes and kilometers, it is signatures. It is the decretion of a junior officer at 2 a.m. Delegates from Chad and Central Africa arrived in N'Djamena with data transit times are drawn 18% since 2022. They concede, but operational costs are up to 23%. Foil, insurance, and informal payments eat the gains. The corridors are faster but not cheaper. 3 days is short. 3 countries is complicated. Yet the forum's agenda suggests an awareness that communiques are no longer enough. Map every control point. Minister Ngale Bibehe spoke of Cameroon's commitment to be a responsible gateway. Responsibility in 2026 means surrendering some sovereignty to common system. It means letting a Chadian customs officer verify a Douala manifest digitally instead of demanding a physical copy. If this meeting ends with only resolutions, the CIF will be convened to lament the same problems. But if it ends with a timetable, a dashboard, and a phone number that a driver in Kusiri can call when extorted, then N'Djamena will have been worth it.
We now take you over to the northwest region of the country, where a Sunday outing turned fatal in Batu, Bamenda 2 subdivision, after schoolgirls aged 13 and 16 drowned in a local dam during a swimming trip. The lifeless bodies of the victims, identified by community sources as Clara and a Princess, were retrieved by the Army Rescue Team following a search that drew dozens of residents to the banks. We have Bertrand Tita once more, who gives us an in-depth.
According to local accounts, Kiara and Princess were among dozens of students who trekked from downtown Bamenda to Batu Dam for sightseeing and swimming. The area, though not an official recreational site, is frequented by youths, especially during weekends and holidays. Witnesses said the alarm was raised late Saturday when the girls failed to resurface. News of the drowning spread quickly, prompting elements of the Army Rescue Unit to storm the area. A search that evening and into Sunday morning initially proved fruitless. In a twist, residents said the bodies were spotted shortly after the Army Rescue Team had suspended the morning operation. The population alerted the soldiers, who returned and retrieved both bodies from the water. Grief quickly mixed with tension as village authorities and representatives of the Army Rescue disagree on how the remains should be buried. The traditional leaders insisted on rites consistent with local customs of drowning victims, while security officials cited public health and administrative protocol.
Yes, traditionally, custom of this place, this one of the first time this canting will happen. When this canting happens, so automatically we just do the barrier around.
You don't know that they fall for water, or they swim, or they push them. Now, doctor give an examination, talk what will happen.
Not die, better die. Now drowning. You need to enter for village. Now curse. Now balok.
The tragedy has reignited debate in Bamenda 2 over supervised student outing and the safety of open water bodies like the Batu Dam. Parents and educators are asking how dozens of students could walk from downtown Bamenda to the site without adult supervision, and why no swimming signs of barriers exist around the dam. The divisional officer for Bamenda 2 has not yet issued a formal statement, but administrative sources say an investigation into the circumstances of the trip is underway. By Sunday evening, grief had engulfed Batu and surrounding quarters. Neighbors had gathered at the families' homes, while classmates of Sierra and Kiara struggled to process the loss. The incident has left the community demanding answers on these fronts: safety measures at the dam, supervisions of students' excursions, and clarity on how state and traditional authorities handle such emergencies. As of Monday morning, funeral arrangements remain unresolved, pending arrangement between village leaders and security officials.
Compound to dam. Now we compound. We don't over-advise picking them.
For the families of Kiara 13 and Princess 16, the outing to Batu Dam was meant to be a day of sightseeing. It ended as a reminder of the thin line between recreation and tragedy when safety, supervision, and coordination fail.
And on to another sad news. The African cinema is mourning one of its giants. Basek Bakobio, filmmaker, writer, and the brain behind the Écran Noir Festival, has died. He was more than a director. He was an architect of modern Cameroonian and African film culture. As promised, tells us more about him in the following report.
Born in Cameroon in 1957, Basek Bakobio directed landmark films like Sango Malo in 1991 and The Great White of Lambaréné in 1995. But his impact went far beyond his own camera. In 1997, he founded Écran Noir, the Pan-African Film Festival that would become one of the continent's most vital platforms for African and diaspora cinema. In his own words, the festival was born from necessity. He once recalled being in Vietnam for a festival and his film was being screened, and he saw the audience discovering the film with a live translator playing all the roles himself. That moment struck him deeply, and when he came back to Cameroon, all the movie theaters were closed. That was when he realized if we do not create our own spaces, our stories and the stories of others will never reach our people. So, Écran Noir became that space. And during what is known as the death of cinema in Cameroon, the festival was the only window open to films from elsewhere and the only platform for our own films to be seen. His work did not go unnoticed by the state. Basek Bakobio was received by Cameroon's Minister of Art and Culture, Bidung Pat, and officially recognized for his contributions, especially for Écran Noir. In his remarks, he thanked the minister for the honor. In a moment that drew applause, he also reminded the audience that the minister himself is a script writer and actor, a rare case of an artist leading the ministry charged with supporting artists. For nearly 3 decades, Écran Noir screened films when cinemas were gone. It trained generations of filmmakers, actors, and technicians. It fought for a film industry built on 3 pillars, as Basek Bakobio often said: cultural, ideological, and economic. And he never saw it as a burden. Rather, it was a pleasure to see young people being trained, young people who have come out of their schools, signing a partnership with the University of Maroua under the auspices of the Minister of State, Minister of Higher Education, for the supervision of the Higher Institute of Arts in the University of Maroua. Basek Bakobio leaves behind films, a festival, a new art institute, and a school of thought. He proved that African cinema could not wait for infrastructure, it had to build its own. He built spaces where stories could live. Tributes are therefore pouring in from filmmakers across Africa and the diaspora. The next edition of Écran Noir will now be his legacy edition. For African cinema, a giant has fallen, but the screen he lit up will not go dark.
And may his soul rest in peace. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our 6 p.m. news over Camdis Television. It was a pleasure staying with you. Do enjoy the rest of the evening in the company of interesting programs over the Republican channel. Meanwhile, we'll meet again tomorrow and it's exactly 6 p.m. Good evening.